The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. That's why I created the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Every show is 30 minutes, and the guests are my Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals. They're so wonderful. Financial advisors, divorce attorneys, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists, and more. We talk about every subject that you can even think of having to do with divorce. The podcast is meant to empower you and inspire you and make you feel really, really confident so that you can have a good divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. You can find the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling. Before we get started, I want to say something about divorce and how I feel. I truly believe that everybody going through a divorce should have a divorce coach. Now, hear me out. A divorce coach will hold your hand through the entire divorce and help you make decisions. So basically, you're saving money with your divorce attorney, and you're also getting such a better outcome because you're able to think more rationally and you have this expertise of this coach. I want to highly recommend, if you're thinking about this, I want to recommend Karen Covey, divorce coach, former divorce attorney, and mediator. And Karen has been doing this for so many years. I've known Karen for over 10 years. I think the world of her. She's so smart, she's so experienced, and she's very dedicated to helping people get through a divorce smoothly, not spend more money than they need to, and have a really good outcome. If you want to learn more, you can find her at KarenCovey.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful real estate agent in Minnesota named Shannon Lindstrom. Shannon has been a real estate agent for, I want to say, decades, but she's also a CDRE, a certified divorce real estate expert. Shannon is so wonderful. She has such a passion for helping people facing divorce in selling and or buying a home during or after the divorce process. Can't say enough about Shannon. If you want to learn more, you can find Shannon on MN for Minnesota, mndivorcerealestateexpert.squarespace.com. And you can find both Shannon and Karen in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. If you are going through a divorce, we're going to talk today about one of the most awkward conversations you will have with your ex. It's uncomfortable. It might make him or her not happy, and it might cause an argument. But the reason it shouldn't cause an argument is because it's really cut and dry. I'm talking about child support. And in every state, there's a formula that the court follows that figures out what a fair amount of child support you should be getting or giving. And you might not think it's fair. Your spouse might not think it's fair, but it really is the only thing in a divorce that is truly cut and dry. I'm not saying I think it's right, but it's a formula. So today I want to talk about child support. We're going to talk about reasons people don't pay, what to do if your ex isn't paying, and then we have a really, really great surprise that's going to make you so happy when it comes to child support. My guest is Ron Platt. Ron is the co-founder of the NASDF, which is the National Association for Single and Divorced Families. Hi, Ron.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this with you. I want to tell my listeners that Ron isn't divorced, but he went through like something that was like a divorce, a breakup after a really, really long relationship. And Ron is also a father who did not get child support. And so he can relate to raising a child with one income. So Ron, don't you feel like child support just from your work in the divorce area, is a stressful, complicated, awkward, uncomfortable conversation between divorcing parents?
It is, but it shouldn't be. I mean, if you're a responsible parent, regardless of your relationship with your former spouse, you have children involved and their needs need to come at the top of the list. Not how your relationship ended, but what is best for your children. So it's a hard conversation to have, but it really shouldn't be. I mean, these are obligations that you have that you need to be responsible for.
Well, having gone through a divorce and talked about child support, I can tell you this, and also having divorced Girl Smiling for 13 years, there are two things going on, I believe, in the child support payer, the person who has to pay, in their mind: fear of finances and money, and anger and resentment and just bitterness about not wanting to pay because maybe the person doesn't work. Maybe the person was a stay-at-home mom or dad, and now they don't want to pay. And they didn't even want this divorce in the first place. So those are the two biggies. Isn't that kind of what you think too?
And I think it's also, yes, and it's also a control measure. So if it's not a pretty divorce and you happen to be married to a narcissist, that's definitely one way for them to be able to continue controlling you until either you don't need the support or the child turns 18 or 21. So it's an unfortunate situation that you're using your children as a pawn in your relationship status. It's not a pretty thing.
So glad you brought that up. That is so true. Control.
Mhm.
All right. So we went over a couple reasons, but let's get into why people might not pay the child support. So let's say you've gone through, well, for those who are newly separated, you're probably getting temporary child support or giving temporary child support. Then when the divorce is final, that's when like the real amount, it could change a little, but they do a temporary child support based on what they think will happen at the end of the divorce. All right. So let's say you're getting child support, everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden he or she didn't pay. What are some of the reasons why people stop paying?
For obvious reasons, either they can't afford it, they might have lost their job, there's been a change of income. There's a lot of parameters that I could even use my parents as an example. My parents got divorced when I was 16 years old, and they sat down before the divorce and said, "Here's what we need. Here's what the bills look like." They agreed to it. After the divorce, my mom called my father and said, "Actually, I don't need that much. Can we lower it?" My dad said, "Great, not a problem." And then she lost her job. And then she called him back and said, "Hey, remember the original amount we agreed to? I need that now." And he's like, "Well, I'll do it for 6 months, but no longer." And it actually took her almost 8 to 9 months to find another job. And it actually led them to go back into court because he refused after whatever period of time it was. He wanted to go back to the lower amount, even though they had originally agreed to a higher amount. And when I asked my dad, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "I was trying to inspire her to get a job." Well, I watched my mother every day, on not online at the time, but looking in the paper, making phone calls, doing what she needed to do to get out there to get the job. And she just had a hard time doing it. So for him, I think it was a bit of a control measure, but I also think he thought that would inspire her to work a little harder. And that's not what she was already doing that. So I think a lot of times it's like that dangling fruit that people say like, "Oh, I've got the money and you don't, and I get to control how this works." We have a one of our members recently left her narcissistic husband. She was an at-home mom, and he just didn't want to pay her any child support or alimony, and unfortunately, because he controlled the money and she didn't, she went to go get an attorney. They required a $5,000 retainer. She didn't have 5,000, so now she went for free legal care. But because they combined the salaries together, she didn't qualify. So she actually had to go borrow the money from somebody to pay the attorney. And I think the most they were able to get out of it is something under $1,000, which doesn't really cover the alimony or the child support. So I was advising her to go back to work a little harder to get more because she really needed around 2,000 or 2,500 for two children. And at this point, she was just frustrated and said, I'm willing to take the 700. So
Yeah.
now he's not only not paying her he pays her periodically. and she knows that she now has to go back and redo the whole process again. And
Right.
and the only reason is because for him, it's a controlling situation. It's
Okay.
make the money, I just don't want to pay it.
Okay. So you brought up a couple things that I made a note of here. The first one is that I want to tell everybody listening that child support is always modifiable. When I was getting divorced, I was told that and I was like, well, what the hell does that mean? Okay. What that means is that if you are giving child support or getting it, either one of you can go back to court at any time and ask for more.
Yep.
Usually I don't hear about people except your mom, Ron, who would just say, "Oh, I want less."
Right.
But you can always change it. So what I want to tell everybody listening is if you don't feel it's fair, you can go back to court. You're not tied into that forever. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. But now we have to go to a break. And then when we come back, I want to recap the reasons people might not pay. Then Ron and I are going to get into what to do if your ex isn't paying. And then we're going to talk about this wonderful thing that you're going to want to sign up for in a second. So you're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff and I'm your host. Today we're talking child support. My guest is Ron Platt, co-founder of NASDF, the National Association for Single and Divorced Families. Just go to nasdf.org to learn more. We'll be right back. I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who I think are wonderful. The first is the firm of Katz and Stefani, a divorce firm in Chicago with an office also in Bannockburn. I have known Dan Stefani for almost 25 years, and I cannot say enough about him. He's a wonderful divorce attorney and a wonderful person, and he and his partner co-founded Katz and Stefani. The firm specializes in complex, high asset, high net worth divorce. They are to be trusted, they're well respected, they know how to do this, and really, I trust the firm a lot. If you want to learn more, you can find them at katzstefani.com. I also want to tell you about Luke Sauter. Luke is a personal financial specialist, an investment advisor representative, and the president and CEO of his company, Videro Investment Advisors. Luke spent 15 years working as a corporate finance executive for a Fortune 500 company, and during that time, he said he worked with highly successful professionals and noticed that they were facing immense pressure as they tried to balance their demanding careers and financial well-being. That's why he got into the business. Luke is really trustworthy. He knows what he's doing. He's somebody you can go to just to get advice on everything from investments, financial planning, divorce planning, tax planning, estate planning, insurance planning, and retirement planning. If you want to learn more, you can find Luke at videro.com. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff and I'm your host. Today I'm here with Ron Platt, who is the co-founder of the NASDF, the National Association for Single and Divorced Families, NASDF.org. Ron is a single parent. He's been through what he calls a divorce, which was like a divorce, same thing, really long-term relationship. So he understands the dynamics of divorce. And Ron and I are talking about child support. So before the break, Ron, you kind of said all these reasons. So I just want to recap them. So the reasons that people don't pay is either they lost their job or got laid off, or they know they're losing their job and they're afraid. It's very fear-driven.
Mhm.
There's also the component of, you know what, this woman has not worked in 20 years and she should not be sitting around and I got a bad deal and you know what, I'm just not going to pay. Let her come after it. There's the control factor. There's, I need to keep control. There's also the factor of people wanting to engage in this argument about child support because they really haven't let go emotionally of the relationship. So they kind of like subconsciously want to still be in it. Okay, then we didn't talk about this, Ron. Maybe the person dies, or
Mm,
maybe they become disabled and they can't work. So there's many reasons people don't pay. We hope that your ex does not become disabled or dies, by the way.
right.
That is a reason. Okay. Ron, what do you do if your ex stops paying? What are some options?
Well, the first one, of course, is that you would reach out to your attorney and let them know that the ex is not paying. I did speak with an attorney the other day that said, well, if the payer person paying the child support and alimony loses their job, I could simply go back to court and ask the court to stop the child support and alimony payments until they get back on their feet. And I said, well, that's great for your client, but what about the person receiving the payments? Like, what are they going to go to the mortgage company and say, well, my ex isn't paying me my child support anymore. Can you hold off a couple of months? So, of course, the first thing you would do is contact the attorney. If you're working with a mediator, I would, of course, go back to the mediator and say, we either need to renegotiate or I need to pursue this legally. But you can also go back, if it's filed with the courts, you can also go directly back to the courts and file a complaint and have it started from there if you're not in a position to hire an attorney.
Okay, so people listening, did you notice the first thing Ron said was, you can call your attorney? And I
Absolutely.
would have said the same thing. And that is might be your gut instinct. But what I want you to think about is if you call your attorney, the clock's ticking and it might be 400 or 500 an hour. Now you have to say to yourself, is it worth it for me to really open this can of worms? Or can I simply call my ex and say, can we have a conversation about this? Let's talk about why you're not paying before you call the attorney. The attorney you can always call, but you may want to figure out what the problem is. Maybe your ex saw a picture of you on Facebook with your new boyfriend and now he's really pissed. And maybe you need to address that and say, I didn't mean to offend you or disrespect you, whatever you have to say to make him okay and then pay. Not that that's right, but listen, it's better than spending a few $1,000s trying and going back to court. Have a conversation. Ron also mentioned mediation. You could just say to your mediator, what do you think I should do? And the mediator probably will say what I just said. Have a conversation. Because
Right.
if you're parents, you want to talk about these things anyway. So get to the bottom of it.
Correct.
And
There's,
then,
there's usually some reason that that has nothing to do with the payments themselves. It tends to be more of an emotional situation.
right. Because if you guys did have a really good relationship and there was no tension, your ex might call you and say, listen, I'm losing my job. What
Right.
should we do?
Right.
That would be, it would more be like, what should we do?
Right. I'm going to move back in temporary. No, just kidding.
Okay. Now, Ron, what about before we started the podcast, we were talking about for people who are going through the process and nothing's final yet. How do you feel about garnishing wages? Tell the listeners what that is and why it's a good thing, because I think it's a good thing.
You would set up like when you have your credit cards prepaid or it's set up on an automatic monthly, it's automatically taken out of your account to pay your credit cards. You can do the same thing with the wages as well. So whoever is paying, it would just be an automatic withdrawal, and you could put that in the divorce decree. So it doesn't get changed every month unless there's some kind of modification to that automatic withdrawal every month, and that's like a guaranteed. It's like getting a check from some kind of business that you know you're going to get a check from every month, and that, of course, is the best way to do it.
So if you're listening to this, ask your attorney or your mediator if it's possible to garnish your spouse's wages for child support so that it automatically comes out of his or her paycheck. This way you're eliminating the fear that he or she isn't going to pay that month or that they're going to get angry and pay less. Or this one, Ron, I see a lot. People tell me they got a child support check and the person took like $300 off and said, well, I bought soccer
Oh
cleats,
yeah,
the uniform,
yeah.
so I just took it out of the check. Well, that's not really acceptable.
Hmm.
Even if you do have to pay half, then write them a check for 150
Right.
and have that be a separate transaction. So I just want to tell people listening, that's not fair. And you have every right to ask for garnished wages if that's what you think is best.
And if there's not a good communication between the two of you, there are apps that you can use that not only allow you to plan your children's doctor's appointments, soccer matches, everything else a calendar that you would use via an app, but it also allows you to communicate with each other. And if that communication goes sideways, it also records it that you can download it and show it to the courts, to a judge if necessary. So if you're in a situation where you're battling back and forth, you might want to try communicating via one of these apps. It makes it not only documents it, it makes it a lot more palatable for the two of you, especially when it comes to the child payments as far as planning and everything else. It's a beautiful thing, these apps.
It is. Our family wizard, I
Yeah.
love. And you can put in all of your expenses
Yeah.
and everything's on record and it's
Yeah.
court admissible. Okay, let's move on to the reason why Ron and I are talking about child support today, because Ron is the co-founder, as I was saying, of the National Association for Single and Divorced Families. And they have this thing called support insured, which is insurance for child support. So, Ron, tell me what that is and who it's for and how it works.
So it's actually for child support and alimony. It can be for either or, but right now, at least in the state of Florida, and I know other states have this as well, when you file for your divorce and actually get divorced, the person paying the child support and alimony has to purchase life insurance. And that usually covers if the person dies for the children's child support up to the time of their 18 or 21, depending on your agreement. Well, that's great, but what if the person doesn't die? What if they suddenly become they become disabled, temporarily disabled, or they were downsized in their job, the plant closed, or they were laid off because just economic reasons, or they own their own business and suddenly lost a major account and have to declare business bankruptcy. All these other items can come in and cause that child support and alimony payment to be delayed. So we actually put together an insurance product called Support Insured that guarantees not only death, but if you're involuntarily unemployed, if you become disabled, or if you have to declare a business bankruptcy, we will continue making the payments for up to a year. Now, it's not long term, but it does give that person who is paying you the opportunity to get back on their feet, to get off of disability, or find out different ways in which to continue paying the child support and alimony. And while they're doing that, we're making the payments on their behalf.
Okay, wait. Okay, so I thought this child support insurance was for the person who was getting the child support. You're telling me it's for the person who's giving it.
It can be for either. So either party can purchase it, but it's based off of the payer's information. So if you're receiving it and the person that is paying you doesn't want to purchase the insurance and you can't work it out with your attorney, you as the person receiving it can purchase the insurance on behalf of the payer. You just have to have the information, like how long has that person been employed with their current employer? Have they ever had a disability or a health issue? As long as you have those answers, you can apply for it, and it can only be up to the amount of the court mandated payments that you're receiving. So somebody came to me the other day and said, I'm getting $2,000 a month. Can I buy $3,000 a month worth of benefits? And the answer is yes. But if there's a claim, I'm only going to pay you $2,000. So we appreciate the additional premium, but it's not going to get you any more money, because at the time that you put the claim in, I need to see what the court mandated amount is. And that's the amount that we're going to be covering.
Okay, now how do they get this? Do they have to belong to the NASDF to be to qualify to get this insurance?
Yes. So when you go to nasdf.org, you're going to see a tab that says Support Insured. If you click on that, you're going to see questions and answers. You're going to see what the premium is. The premium is predicated on the amount that you're receiving and your age. And then you'll see the form. Or if you just go to the application, it'll fill it out for you automatically. And when you do that, you also get a discount to the first year's membership to NASDF.
Okay, so I want to get into all the other benefits of NASDF, but I have more questions about this
Sure.
product.
Now,
So,
if I could prep this real quick, you can join NASDF without purchasing the insurance. But if you're going to purchase the insurance, you have to become a member of NASDF, if that makes
okay,
sense.
which it's not expensive, by the way. I just want to tell everybody to be an NASDF member, and there's so many benefits that you're going to get your money back in like 2 seconds through all these discounts and other things that they offer. Okay, is it possible to go to court and say, one of the things I want in my settlement is for my ex to get support insured. Is it expensive, Ron? Like, how much is the insurance?
So I'm going to give you an example. If you're currently receiving $2,000 a month, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the premium is, without looking at my chart, I'm pretty sure the premium is around $565 for the year, $565 for the year.
That is so reasonable.
And then it's another $180 for normally our annual membership to NASDF is $220, but when you purchase the insurance, it's only $180. And that's it.
Okay. Wow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. So now I feel like couples might work together and say, maybe we should get this just in case anything happens. In case you lose your job, now we have all this money that we won't have to worry about it. And how long does the insurance pay for? Is there like different plans where they'll pay for different time?
We pay up to a year. So you will receive 12 payments, or whenever that person says, okay, I got a job, even if they don't notify us, we'll continue making the payments for up to a year.
I think this is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some of the other benefits. So if someone's listening and saying like, oh, I don't know if I want to join an NASDF, but I'm definitely interested in the insurance. Tell them what else you get.
So one of the reasons why we created NASDF is if you Google divorce, you're going to get about 4 or 5 pages of attorneys, and you don't get to resources or help that you need during a divorce until you get to like page 10. So what we did is we created an umbrella of product services and support for people who are in that process, or if you've already gone through the process of divorce and you're now a single family, we want to also help you financially work with being a single parent as well. So things like child daycare services, if you want to sign up at La Petite Academy or Montessori, you grow it. There's a lot of child care services that we have, child educational services, I should say, under the Learning Care Group. They will give you a 10% off the first year's tuition. They'll put you at the top of the list if there's a waiting list, and they also provide other services as well. A lot of times, if you're an at-home mom or dad, now you have to re-enter the job force. There's usually a gap from the time that you stop working to raise your children to the time that you want to get back to work. And there's this gap on your resume, and it's hard sometimes for people to figure out how to make that look good. So we have a career services section where you can see we have about 20 different videos that teaches you how to update your resume, update LinkedIn, how to apply for the job, how to dress for success, how to get in front of that HR person so you get the interview. And then if you still don't know what you want to do or how to re-enter it, the person that runs the organization have counselors who will provide one-on-one sessions with you at a discount. I think it's a 25% discount. Things like if you need to buy or sell real estate. Most divorces where somebody owns property, you're going to have to either buy the person out of the equity that's in the house, or you're going to have to sell the house. So we have about 75,000 lenders and realtors in our network group right now, and that's growing every day, that are certified in divorce, and they understand what you're going through. We're actually working something out with a company right now that if you went with one of our realtors, not only would they pay for your first year of support insured, but they also have an app that does your financial filings that you need with the courts. And all of that would be thrown in with when you list with one of our realtors. And on top of that, we're going to help you offset some of your closing costs. So, I mean, that in itself is around a $7,000 benefit right there.
Wow.
Mental health care, children have a hard time with this. People have a hard time with this. It's sometimes going to see a therapist is going to be something you must have. At this moment, it will change as of March. At this moment, you get 3 free mental health care sessions and then discounted sessions thereafter. In March, that will go to 8 free mental health care sessions per condition. So if you or your child is suffering from anxiety and depression, that's actually 16 free mental health care sessions. And for me, I think that is probably one of the top most valuable things that we offer to our members.
Same here. I mean, I'm listening to this going, okay, could have used that when I was getting divorced. Could have used that. Could have used the mental health. Definitely the career services.
Yep.
Amazing. I mean, this is all just so amazing. Ron, thank you so much for everything you're doing. It's so remarkable, so helpful and meaningful. Thank you. And
Absolutely.
And I was just going to say thanks for being on the podcast to tell everybody about it.
And thank you, Jackie, for letting me be on the podcast to share the news with everybody.
And I want to tell everyone that if you go to Google and Google divorce, yes, you'll find 2 or 3 pages of divorce lawyers and mediators and all that, but you'll also find Divorce Girl Smiling. So divorcegirlsmiling.com. The reason I think Ron and I clicked so much when we first met is because we're both really on a mission to help people getting divorced. So you can go to Divorce Girl Smiling to read articles, listen to more podcasts, sign up for my free consult, and find 80 trusted, vetted divorce professionals who we trust and who we think can help you through your divorce. And lastly, don't forget to go to NASDF.org to find out more about Support Insured and all these other amazing benefits. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.